Did you know that according to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, 2/3 of all our fruits and veggies eaten in the United States come from outside the country? And there are all kinds of problems with that. For one, an apple that had to travel hundreds or even thousands of miles to get to your plate can't be all that fresh or nutritious. And I say that's just crazy, especially when we can grow so many different varieties in our own front and backyards. Jumping into growing your own food is actually quite simple. You just need to know the rules. My free webinar, Introduction to Urban Farming, begins to frame out your pathway to growing your own healthy food. In this free webinar, you'll learn the 3 simple steps to becoming an urban farmer, the 5 components of healthy soil, and how to think regeneratively, which is, by the way, one of the most important concepts we need to be exploring right now. Will you join me in this webinar and help co-create the food revolution? Just text GARDEN to 44222 or go to urbanfarmu.org to sign up for your free webinar. That's GARDEN to 44222 or urbanfarmu.org.
You're listening to the Urban Farm Podcast, your partner in the Grow Your Own Food revolution. Whether you've just been introduced to urban farming or you're a lifelong advocate, we're sure you'll leave feeling more informed, equipped, and empowered to dig deeper into the soil of your local food economy. With you every step of the way, here's your host, Greg Peterson.
Welcome to the Urban Farm Podcast. Today we have Kari Spencer back on the show to talk about her book, Composting Made Easy. Kari is a popular local gardening and homestead speaker. Both a master gardener and a master farmer, Kari enjoys sharing her passion for growing and raising food with others. In addition to teaching classes all over the city of Phoenix, she is one of our talented instructors at Urban Farm U. Her family operates the Microfarm Project, a small farm in North Phoenix, where gardens and livestock animals provide her family with food and fun. She loves to experiment in new ways to create a healthier, more self-reliant and sustainable lifestyle, and invites others to join her on her journey. Welcome to the show today, Kari. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Greg.
Absolutely. So, you wrote a book called Composting Made Easy. Could you tell us more about the book and how you got there and what it's about?
Yeah, well, the book is exactly what it says, Urban Composting Made Easy, right? And it doesn't have to be urban. It can be anywhere. That just happens to be in the title. But the composting book is all about how composting works, how to do it, and some of the challenges that come with composting and how to solve those.
Oh, wow.
Right. So it's a combination of easy how-to and more technical stuff for people who really like to dive in.
Perfect. Deep. Dive into deep to compost. Huh?
Right. Or dig in, we could say. Dig in deep. Yeah. So I guess you could say it's all the dirt on composting. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Nice. Now, in this book, you write it. You've written it a particular way. One of the things that you do that I love in your courses and in your writing is you write in acronyms.
Yeah, I like to do that because it makes things easy to remember.
Yeah. So you created an acronym out of compost, yes?
Yes, I did.
Tell us about that.
Well, it's not rocket science here, but compost, C-O-M-P-O-S-T.
Nice.
So there's a chapter for each letter.
Oh, okay, good.
Right, so C is the carbon-nitrogen ratio.
Oh,
So this is basically how to feed your compost pile and what it needs nutritionally in what ratios.
All right, cool.
Yeah, and
so
then
that's where the greens and browns shows up, right?
That's where the greens and browns show up. Yeah, so
right.
You can get a really great idea of what those terms mean if you're not already familiar with them.
Perfect. So what are greens?
Greens are things that were recently alive, that are moist and break down quickly.
Okay.
Organic materials.
And generally, how much of that do you need in?
You need about half as many greens as you need browns, or sometimes we say 3 times as many browns as greens. And browns are things that are more stable, lots of carbon in them, they're dry, and they've been dead for a while. So wood chips or sawdust would be browns.
Right. Leaves.
Newspaper, dry brown leaves.
Dried brown leaves, yeah.
Yeah, those are things that are browns. Whereas things you cut up in your kitchen for your salad would be greens. Right.
Yeah. Oh, perfect. And I'm always, in the fall, I'm always cruising around the neighborhood looking for leaves.
Yeah, we have to do that here in Phoenix because we don't have as many trees as some other locations
go.
have. So we got to get them where we can.
So that's the C.
Yeah. And O is oxygen.
Uh-huh.
Compost is broken down by living beings, microbes, and other things that live in the soil that need air just like people do. So we've got to make sure there's a good oxygen level in our compost piles. Yeah, and then hand in hand with that is M, moisture.
Oh, right. Got to have water in it.
Water is key. Your pile will not be active if it's not moist. And so we tell you how to do that, how to get it to the right level of moisture.
Oh, perfect.
And how often that you need to get it
I think
wet.
one of the things they say is you want to be able to take a handful of this stuff when it's properly moist and squeeze it and a little bit of water comes out.
Yeah, about as moist as a wrung out sponge.
Oh, very good. All right, cool.
Yeah. And then the P is particle size. So the smaller that we cut down particles, the faster they will decompose. But this is where it's tricky because if you cut them too small, they can really mat.
Oh, yes.
So we want particles of different sizes in the pile, not just teeny tiny and not too big. Yeah, so we go over that in detail and how to accomplish that. O is for odor.
Odoriferous.
Yes, pile can be odoriferous. We want it to smell good, like the forest, right? But sometimes, occasionally, a foul odor will pop up. So that chapter is about what those odors mean.
And how to fix them, maybe?
And how to address them.
Oh, very good.
And they can be quickly remedied if you know what to do. Absolutely. And S is for site. Where do you locate your pile?
Okay.
Yeah, and there's a lot of factors that go into that, from just your personal way of being. Do you want it near you? Do you want it farther away? What's most convenient for you? But also, where will it be protected from animals, from too much sun or too much moisture? Or here in the desert, we protect it from evaporation,
drying out too much,
drying out, and we expose it to as much moisture as we can. So it really depends on where you live and what your climate is like, and the chapter goes into how to figure that out.
And the place that I keep my compost pile here at the Urban Farm is in the chicken coop.
That is a perfect place if you have chickens to keep a compost pile.
Yeah, because they can do tilling for me. Plus, they're going to eat any bugs that show up. Because occasionally we get bugs in compost, right?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, so it's protein for the chickens.
Yes, yeah, that is a great way to compost, and we do that on our farm too.
Yay!
Yeah, and the last letter is T. That's temperature.
Oh yes.
How hot should your pile get? And there's different ways to do composting. There's cold composting,
right,
where the temperature isn't raised at all, but that takes a long time, very long time. If you can get your pile hot enough that when you stick your arm in it, you can really feel that heat, it's going to compost a lot faster.
Oh, so it's not too hot.
Not too hot. Too hot can happen, but probably not so often in a backyard composting situation. It would be more of a concern in a commercial composting situation, because our piles aren't really big enough to get so hot that they combust. But we do want them to feel hot. We want to be able to feel that heat. So we'll talk about what to do if your pile does not heat up. And how to manage that. There's a really easy system for doing that, and the book lays that out for you in a very simple manner so that you can make the magic happen in your compost pile in your own backyard.
Great. So what inspired you to write about your composting experience?
Couple of things. One is that when I get excited about something, I want everybody to know about it. That's the teacher in me.
That's the teacher in you. That's right.
Yeah, I love to teach. I love to give people education and to package it in a way that's easy for them to go home and do. Secondly, I was fascinated with composting and how it worked, and I was learning so much about soil health and the microbial activity and the fungus that grows in soil, which is really a good thing. Fungus doesn't sound great, but most of it is wonderful for our soil, and scientists are learning so much about it, and we haven't even scratched the surface of the benefits of healthy soil
and fungus
and how it works.
and how it works. Absolutely. I don't want to pass this one up. I get people that email and call me and say, oh my gosh, I have mushrooms growing in my yard. How do I get rid of them?
Don't.
What do you tell them?
Don't.
Right.
Celebrate them.
That, yeah.
Because that means that your soil is beginning to show the signs of being a good host for fungus. And most of them are very good, and mushrooms aren't bad at all.
Mushrooms,
Not at all. Just don't eat them unless you know exactly what they are.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's really hard to tell. So just let them pop up. They'll pop up and then they'll disappear. Yeah. As your organic matter breaks down, they tend to go away. But going back to why I wrote the compost book, I was fascinated by it. Still am learning. And the best way that I found to learn is to do research. And if I'm doing the research, why not put it in a book for everybody to be able to grab? So that's exactly what we did.
Perfect. So do you have any takeaways that you want your readers to take away once they read the book? What are the takeaways?
The takeaways are, I hope, first of all, that they will get as excited about soil health as I am. And that when they read the book, that they will put the simple system into action and start building some compost in their backyard and putting it in their gardens and seeing what happens, seeing their garden come to life. And I just really want people to be successful and to see how much of a benefit it is and what a great difference that it can make in our landscapes and in our gardens.
Perfect. So people can get this book?
Yes, they can.
Where?
Well, you have it made available.
I do.
Yeah, so...
This is actually, so to be fully upfront, this is actually a book that I published for Kari.
Yes.
So you can get it at urbanfarm.org.
Yes. Yes, and I hope everybody will.
Yep. Perfect. So you haven't just written this. You've been writing for years.
Yes.
And you have a microfarm blog on your website.
I do.
Tell us about that. What's that about?
So my blog is at themicrofarmproject.com. So if you're interested in taking a look at it, please do. And I talk about whatever is interesting me at the moment related to gardening and urban farming. I even throw in some blog posts about canning and preserving and just everything that is related to having a farm. I have also started highlighting urban farms that are interesting to me and giving that information out as well.
Perfect. So that was the microfarmproject.com. That'll also be in the show notes. So you'll be able to get that in the show notes. And you have a newsletter that you put. Yes, Urban Farm newsletter, yes?
Yes, so you can sign up for that on my website, and we send out a newsletter quite regularly with all the information that we're learning on our farm, with event information as well, because I teach a lot around the valley, and so you can... And online, and in person at my farm as well. So you can get all that information, whether you're local or whether you live somewhere else. There are events for you.
From your blog, what is one of your more favorite pieces that you've written over the years?
Well, I actually have a 2-part blog about container gardening.
Oh, yes.
And it's probably the most popular piece on the blog.
Really?
It gets the most hits. And I really lay out the method to container garden vegetables successfully. So it's really, really easy to do. There's just a few things that you need to know because it's quite different from gardening in the ground as far as your preparation and your management goes. But container gardening is great for people who don't have very much space to grow food. Maybe they don't have a yard. And I think that there's a lot of people who live in apartments or condos that still really want to grow something. And so container gardening has gone from just being for flowers and ornamental things to entire vegetable gardens grown in containers. And so that was really fun to write, and it's been a lot of fun to share with people over the years.
So what current projects are you working on now for the future, Kari?
Well, I'm currently writing another book. This one's called City Farming.
Nice.
And it's all about innovative urban farmers and how they're solving some of the challenges of urban farming.
Wow. You've started traveling over the country to interview people for this, haven't you?
Yes, I have. I've been to some really interesting farms here in Phoenix, but also in other states, and it's been a lot of fun, and I've learned so much from other urban farmers. And what I'm really interested in learning from these urban farmers are things that a typical farmer like me, who's not a scientist, who's not a mechanic or an engineer, can go home and do. So very practical ways to solve the challenges of urban farming so that we can get food growing everywhere in our cities.
Perfect. So timeline on that book?
Well, it probably won't be coming out until December of next year, 2016.
Okay.
But we are starting to put some of the information up on the web at cityfarmingbook.com, so you can get a preview of what the book will be about, and also actually look at some of the farms that we've been interviewing and filming and writing about. And I think that people will really enjoy that. If they're interested in urban farming, take a look at that, because these are people who have gone before you, who have great ideas. And there may be some things that you hadn't even considered that you might want to do on your farm. So we're working diligently to get as many farms up on the web even before the book comes out.
Perfect. You know what? I don't want to pass that up. There is so much good information in watching other people. In permaculture, we call it observation. So go learn from your peers. It makes a difference, doesn't it?
It's free and it's valuable. It'll save you a lot of headaches, and it'll give you some inspiration as well.
Yeah. So what advice do you have for our listeners?
Well, if our listeners out there are like me and like to share information and want to write, I would really highly recommend that you get out there and get a blog. There's lots of free ones that you can download on the web, and they're very interactive and easy to do, but just start putting content out on the web. Your experience is valuable to other people. And the more information that is out there and the more interest that we can generate in urban farming, I think, the better. And we can all learn from each other. And if you aspire to be an author, you've got to get content on the web, because sending in a manuscript is antiquated now, and the publishing houses don't even look at that. So put your content on the web, because that's where it's going to get seen by the people who can publish your writing and get it to more people.
So let's talk about that for a minute, because that's how your current publisher found you. And they're out of the UK, and we're in Phoenix, Arizona, right?
Yes.
So tell us that story. That's a fascinating story. That's like a major win there.
Well, I just started blogging and putting content out, and one of my followers, unbeknownst to me, was a scout for 5M Publishing, which is out of the UK, as you mentioned. Yes, and they were wanting to break into the urban farm market because they publish primarily big ag publications. So if you go to the pigsite.com, that's theirs, and it's all about commodities and things that backyard farmers may be interested in but may not apply at all. And so they want to break into this urban farm market, and they wanted to break into the US market. And so this woman who's been following me contacted me and asked me if I would be interested in writing a book for them, which would be their inaugural foray into the U.S. urban farming publishing market.
That's magic. As far as I'm concerned, that's magic.
Well, it's very exciting, also extremely challenging and a little bit nerve-wracking to be in that position, but I am having a lot of fun with it, especially visiting the farms and collecting all of the content for the book has been a blast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So do you have any last thoughts for our listeners before we wrap this one up?
Well, I hope that they will get out there and do the composting and read the book and just make some compost in their backyard. It's gardener's gold, and it's free. Yes, and the biggest thing is just do it. Whether you read my book or get information from somewhere else, just make some compost and use it.
Perfect. So you can find Urban Composting Made Easy at urbanfarm.org. Top right is a shopping cart button. Go there, and it's the book in the book section. So, Kari, you have a gift for our listeners today.
Yes, I do. I just finished putting together a PDF version of the instructions to compost. And they're broken down into very easy steps with photos.
Oh, wow.
And pictures. So it's fun to read. It's fun to look at. It's got some really nice pictures in it. And it'll be an easy, quick read, and it will get you started right away.
Perfect. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for that. So to find out more information about that, just go to the show notes on the Urban Farm podcast, and we'll get you over there.
Great.
So, Kari, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your experience about writing this book and composting. It's been a real blast.
It has been. Thank you so much for having me on, and thank you, everybody, for listening.
Well, that's all for today. Thanks for joining us on the Urban Farm podcast, and until next time, have a farm-tastic day.
Would you like to grow your own healthy, organic food? Once you know the secrets, it's really quite simple. Imagine saving money at the grocery store, increasing your intake of organic whole foods, cultivating greater food security, and feeling more connected to the earth. Let Urban Farm U diffuse your gardening doubts in our upcoming free webinar, Gardening Unearthed. We will walk you through the 7 key factors for growing your own healthy, organic food easily and without any hard labor. Just text the word garden to 44222 to sign up for your free webinar, or visit urbanfarm.org for more information. With the right knowledge in place, there's no such thing as a black thumb. Remember, that's garden to 44222 to sign up for your free gardening webinar.
Did you know that according to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, 2/3 of all our fruits and veggies eaten in the United States come from outside the country? And there are all kinds of problems with that. For one, an apple that had to travel hundreds or even thousands of miles to get to your plate can't be all that fresh or nutritious. And I say that's just crazy, especially when we can grow so many different varieties in our own front and backyards. Jumping into growing your own food is actually quite simple. You just need to know the rules. My free webinar, Introduction to Urban Farming, begins to frame out your pathway to growing your own healthy food. In this free webinar, you'll learn the 3 simple steps to becoming an urban farmer, the 5 components of healthy soil, and how to think regeneratively, which is, by the way, one of the most important concepts we need to be exploring right now. Will you join me in this webinar and help co-create the food revolution? Just text GARDEN to 44222 or go to urbanfarmu.org to sign up for your free webinar. That's GARDEN to 44222 or urbanfarmu.org.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode of the Urban Farm Podcast. Remember to listen 3 days a week for tips, advice, and resources to help you on your journey with urban farming. You can find us on the web at urbanfarm.org or send us an email to podcast@urbanfarm.org. In the words of Vincent van Gogh, great things are done by a series of small things brought together. Be encouraged that with each lesson learned and skill developed, you are one step closer in the direction of your dreams.